Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. We have a viral video which has going quite crazy recently, and it's from a new video from the background NPC. And this female gamer, she posted a video which literally has sent some shockwaves across the industry once more. And this is about the Western games which are doomed. Why is she on about this? Have a look, because guys, this video is really interesting. Let's have a check.
Very much a homebody, almost embarrassingly so, and weekends are when I have the most time to dive into whatever game I'm currently playing through. Up until about 3 weeks ago, that was Clair Obscur, which, yes, I finally beat, but this weekend was no different. It's midnight on Friday night, and I'm working my way through Stellar Blade while my half-started copy
Nice, Stellar Blade. Yeah, that's a really good game.
of First Berserker Kazan
And
is
First
staring at me
Berserker.
from my backlog. And as I was running around Zion, something just clicked. Both of these games have super fun, fluid combat. Both have very attractive protagonists. Both nail that one more try addiction that keeps you glued to your screen, and
Yeah.
they're both Korean made.
That's the thing, they're both Korean games, and this is the issue right now, which she's going to explain here, is the fact that Korea is, and China as well, they're literally just eating out the Western industry alive. Like, there's just no competition anymore. At some point, it's going to be a laughable game.
As I realized this, it hit me. When did Korean developers quietly start dropping all these bangers? I started looking into it, and I guess this has just gone completely under my radar, but developers from China and Korea, places that historically haven't made double or AAA titles, have really been knocking it out of the park lately. And obviously, Japan has always had their share of home runs too. But these days, with how expensive games are becoming,
that's right.
and with how awful some of our choices are, this really means a lot. We're naturally gravitating towards the games that respect our time and money, and over the past couple years, Eastern developers have been pulling us in like a black hole.
And that's, do you know why that is? That's because they make games with quality. They actually care about the gamer's experience, and they don't care to pander to some political agendas. That is the thing. I know many people who work in the industry, professionals, will deny completely that the woke agenda has affected the Western game development, but let's face the facts here. They speak for themselves.
And I'm loving it. It's no secret that Elden Ring and the Soulsborne formula have inspired many of these Eastern developers. And how could they not? Elden Ring was a cultural phenomenon, and yes, I've seen gamers claim Souls-like fatigue, but I think that fatigue only happens when the games are bad. So just like what Mr. Gunn said, it's really just bad game fatigue. Here's the thing though.
That's the thing. I mean, if you make the I would say average games, of course people are gonna feel the fatigue because they're average games, and these are the games that they will normally not play, but because they're Souls-like games, they're drawn into it because of Elden Ring, and then they find out that they're disappointed because the game is not that great. But that's about the fatigue. If a game is really good quality, and this is Souls-like, doesn't matter, people will enjoy it still.
Eastern developers saw the genuine love and excitement people had for this genre and thought, we can make something players will love too. Most recently, we saw this with Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. Yeah, there were optimization issues at launch, but you can still see that this smaller team was genuinely trying to make something they thought would resonate
they did a
with
really good
players.
job.
And since launch,
they improved it, they optimized it, they actually did some good job on it. Of course, the game, you know, like for example, I'm playing it on a 380 right now, on the 380 on my PC, and I play it for like at 80 frames per second approximately. Sometimes it dips to like 77, 76 frames per second, like during like lots of like big massive effects on the screen, but 80 frames per second on a 380, that's pretty damn good, to be honest.
they've apologized, they've released patches, and they've even given away in-game loot. Come on, they're obviously doing their best and working for us. They made this game for us, the players, and they want us to enjoy it and love it. That's the difference. Some developers are genuinely trying to make games with us in mind, and others just
That's
aren't.
the thing, make games with the gamer in mind, something that many Western companies have completely forgotten. What's the whole point, right?
And the crazy thing is that these Eastern developers haven't discovered some secret formula. They're not doing anything new.
That's right. They're not doing anything new. They're just literally doing what gamers wanted. I mean, look at this. All these are Eastern Asian games, right? Wukong, Lies of Peace, Stellar Blade, Lost Soul Aside, Tides of Annihilation, Crimson Desert, Phantom Blade Zero, Kazan, Where Winds Meet, Wu Chang, Ballad of Fantaria, Vindictus, like all these games, guys, they're literally Asian games. And all of them have one thing in common. They are making the game for the gamers' entertainment, not for like a political statement, not because of the agenda or whatever, not because they want to make sure that they appeal to certain modern audiences which don't exist. That's the secret. They just do something that's been there forever. Make games for freaking gamers.
Or groundbreaking, they're just getting back to the basics, making games that respect players and want them to have fun. So all of this got me thinking about the state of our industry. What is happening with Western developers and how are they so far behind their Eastern counterparts? Now, before we get into the whole East versus West thing, let's be real. The gaming industry is getting squeezed from every direction. We've now got credit card companies trying to censor gaming content, games disappearing when servers shut down, hence the Stop Killing Games initiative, rising development costs making everyone risk-averse, live service pressure from investors, the prioritization of modern ideology over good gameplay, and us just paying more than ever for games that we don't actually own. The entire industry is getting hit from all sides. Eastern developers, Western developers, everyone's facing the same stuff one way or another. But how these developers respond is what tells you everything. When faced with the challenges, some developers are doubling down on actually caring about us.
That's the difference here. This is where Western game developers have lost the plot, like literally 100%.
Because they understand we're the ones who can actually help them succeed, while others have just stopped listening to us entirely.
Not just stopped listening, they just went all the way opposite. They're trying to sabotage gamers. Like, that's the thing. They're trying to, I mean, the creators of Dragon Age the Veilguard, like the director said that, well, we don't care how the game is going to turn out because we know that the hardcore fans will be there for us anyway. So they just assume that doesn't matter what pile of shit they release, all right, in their games, the hardcore fans will be there for them to support them because they are hardcore fans. Well, guess what happened? It did not materialize and they suffered massive losses in the game. I mean, obviously it's common sense, right?
So let's do a little dissecting of what the West has been up to. Now, be warned. It's a little bit depressing, but don't worry, we'll get through it together.
It's depressing, but you have to see the truth, because if you don't face the truth, you will never improve. That's the problem, right? That's the issue.
And then we'll look at how Eastern developers are truly here to save the day and how not all hope is lost. Going back through gaming history, it's such a bummer because there was a time when Western AAA developers actually worked to make games with us in mind. You could truly feel that they really cared about what we wanted. Remember Assassin's Creed 2? Ubisoft spent years reconstructing Renaissance Italy.
That was a game, man. I remember that was a freaking game. When I played Assassin's Creed 2, honestly, like, that was one of the best experiences in my life. Like, it was incredible. The architecture, the feeling, the emotions, the characters, the story plot, like, everything was awesome, right? It was just Ubisoft at its absolute peak best back in 2009.
With historian level accuracy, all while giving us a beloved protagonist and story that made you care about the world even more. It wasn't just for profit or to push some agenda. The team behind the game clearly had pure love and passion for what they were making, and it was obvious that they wanted the players to enjoy it. BioWare used to obsess over connecting with players. They'd spend months...
BioWare is awesome as well. I mean, I remember Mass Effect, the first 3 Mass Effects, albeit, yes, the ending of Mass Effect 3 was not what everyone expected. It's still debatable, XYZ, but the actual story and engagement of the game so far, and also Dragon Age Origins, right, which was really good, was awesome.
Years perfecting
Sorry, my bad, Inquisition as well. Yeah, Inquisition was crazy good.
Systems and Mass Effect and Dragon Age because they understood that's how we bond with the characters. Thousands of lines of dialogue, branching narratives that actually mattered. It was all because they knew that's what their players would love. And Rockstar, their track record speaks for itself. GTA, Red Dead Redemption, they are making games 100% catering to the player's experience.
I mean, Rockstar is an exception because like they spent a decade making a game, so they're a bit like out there, like they're the outlier, I would say, which is just because they have the money to do that, they can afford to do that, so they're kind of the exception to the pot.
Which is why I'm really hoping GTA 6 doesn't disappoint. But across the board, going back through gaming history, there are so many examples of games that were made by people who wanted to bring players joy. You could feel the love in every mechanic, every system, every decision. Western AAA gaming was in its golden age.
Yeah, that was usually between the year 2000 and 2015. Or more like 2000 and 2012, 13. It was awesome, it was amazing. Up to The Witcher, I would say. After The Witcher, things kind of started going down. The Witcher 3 was one of the last big, like awesome Western games, which was like unique and amazing and great. And from there on, it kind of felt going downhill, to be honest.
Oh, what happened? Well, looking at the state of the industry right now, it's clear that so many studios have replaced respect and passion with greed, contempt, laziness, and just nonsense. They started shipping broken games at full prices that continue to creep up, cramming in microtransactions and live service monetization.
Yeah, remember, so they released the microtransaction first before releasing a patch to optimize the actual game. That's what Western developers are doing literally like right now, guys, right now.
Expecting us to pay for unfinished products, then buy the rest as DLC. They've let cultural pressure override what we actually want. Now character designs have to go through committees that are terrified of making anyone attractive or appealing. They prioritize poorly executed modern ideologies over actual compelling narratives and characters. Everything they do at this point is for what the modern audience desires, but
yeah, that's the thing. Where is the modern audience? Well, that's the thing. It doesn't exist. Like, they sanitize everything to the T. They make it look like you're literally in a hospital sometimes when you play one of these games. Like, you feel like you're like in a room with a HR consultant next to you. Like, whenever I was playing Dragon Age, the Veilguard, honest to God, and I didn't finish the game because I just couldn't. I felt like in some of the cutscenes, or quite a lot of the cutscenes, I had like an HR consultant like literally next to me, and they were watching closely at me how I react or how I feel when these people talk about their gender, their identity, their emotions, their whatever stuff there. And it's like, that's the thing, like it just feels so overly sanitized. It's just ridiculous.
Where are they? Where is this audience and why aren't they buying these games? I mean, just look at the lineup over the last few years. The Concord team allegedly spent well over their $200 million budget just to make both a game and
I mean, Concord is a great example. That's what happens when you don't know how to invest the money. That's exactly what happens. 200 million, guys, and that's guess what? That's not a true number. I'm pretty sure it's more into it's maybe like 300 or 400 million, to be honest. But we will never know. We will never know.
Characters that appealed to no one. And then they shut down after 2 weeks. Dragon Age: The Veilguard was in development for 10 years and somehow still launched with insanely awkward and lecture-heavy dialogue in a game where dialogue is everything. The Saints Row reboot, with over $100 million budget, completely ignored fan concerns and just steamrolled ahead to failure and ultimately the developer's demise. And don't even get me started on Ubisoft. Star Wars Outlaws only sold 1 million copies in its first month, despite their massive marketing.
And get this, their plan was to sell about 5 to 10 million copies in the first 6 months. It never materialized, ever.
And causing their stock to crash to a 10-year low. Then there's Assassin's Creed Shadows and Skull and Bones. Flop after flop with these same awful formulas, costing the company over 178 million in losses for the last year. And their CEO keeps making these tone-deaf comments.
It's because the gamers, guys, the gamers are at fault. It's always the gamers. Yeah, we make great games. It's because the gamers are idiots. Like, that's what the CEO said. The CEO of Ubisoft said himself. Ubisoft CEO blames organized criticism for poor game reception. So, hey, get this. You are not allowed to criticize Ubisoft because if you criticize them, you're a bad person.
about it all. He can't be stopped. The list goes on and on. Suicide Squad, Redfall. What's the result of all of this? Mass layoffs across the industry. Studios shutting down.
Oh, and by the way, I'm not sure if she's gonna mention it or not, but hiring consultants to consult on your game to make sure that the game is culturally acceptable for the modern audience is pretty much speedrunning to failure at this point.
And these companies bring all of this upon themselves. They cut corners, push low-effort development, and chase that mythical modern audience instead of truly serving the players who are actually supposed to buy their games. Studios that have been around for decades are getting shut down left and right because they followed these awful formulas.
And let's not forget something really important. Between 2020 and 2024, they hired so many DEI hires in the gaming industry because guess what? They were getting all of these cheap loans from BlackRock and Vanguard, but to get these loans, these companies had to basically make sure they guarantee in the contract that they will implement social justice elements, woke elements, like modern audience elements, identity politics elements into their games, because otherwise they would have not gotten these cheap loans. Then they got those loans, they released the games flopped, and then of course they had to cut staff because the staff which was working on these games did not produce a result. And this is what happened, and we know it happened. Western industries will never recognize this, but this is exactly what has happened.
Prioritizing monetization over quality, ideology over gameplay. There has been so much money wasted. This is basically the state of Western AAA games. Like I said, depressing. I mean, these are supposed to be some of the best. We're talking millions of dollars here. Massive teams, huge historical successes, and somehow so many of their recent titles felt like they were made by people who just didn't care.
Even the best of the best, it doesn't matter because you have the best of the best when their original creators and directors are there, but once they leave the studios and new people come in, it just becomes an empty shell of itself, which is what happened with BioWare, for example.
Or at least didn't care nearly enough. And we're at the point now where it's become so easy to recognize that disconnect and the lack of effort. I mean, you can basically tell immediately when you see
Ubisoft's, sorry, my bad, Naughty Dog's new AAA. Yes, this is an ad for Gillette. I mean, this is crazy.
a new trailer, whether or not the game is gonna be a hit or a miss. Yes, still looking at you and that beautiful glistening head. But all of this brings us to good news. When you look at what's been happening in the East, the small teams of developers in China and Korea are fighting to put out double and AAA games while facing these same pressures, and so many of them are succeeding. The passion for what they do is shining through. They're fully focused on respecting their audience and giving us, the players, what we want. Fun fact, Black Myth Wukong's team spent 4 years traveling around China to 3D scan real locations out of pure love and authenticity. You can feel how much they cared about the source material, story, and the characters. I love that little Buddha. And they shared that passion with us at every step. And you know what? It worked. Black Myth Wukong cost around 42 million to make and has sold over 25 million copies. That's what happens when players feel
25 million copies. That's insanity, guys. I remember when the Western reviewers reviewed the game and they said that, oh yeah, it's okay, but it's not the best. I was like, oh, it's alright, because they were seeding so much, because Black Myth Wukong was made by a group of Chinese developers which are not Western. And also, get this is really important. Black Myth Wukong developers, they actually rejected consultation offers from Western people. I'm not sure if it was Sweet Baby Inc. or someone else, but they were like consultant companies, right, which were for like sensitivity consultation. And then the creators of Black Myth Wukong said in their face, no, we're not paying you $1 million for consultation fees because we don't need you. And literally because of that, these consultants then went to the press and the media and tried to throw trash at the developers because they would reject their consultation sensibility consultants to release the game and adapt it for the quote-unquote modern audiences. How did that turn out? Well, people kept buying the game, people enjoyed the game, and the game is a crazy success.
Feel like someone actually cares about them versus trying to force things on them that they don't want. Stellar Blade gave us a beautiful female lead and calculated physics for every single movement, while refusing to compromise on a 60 FPS. The game launched pretty much bug-free too. That's them carrying.
And that's also another thing. Like, Stellar Blade was literally so bug-free, it was crazy. Like the performance of the game itself, like it was so good. Like the only updates the developers made was like small bits and stuff like that, but the actual performance of the 60 FPS was like constant flow of 60 FPS on the base PS5. It was amazing. It was crazy, right? I mean, just imagine like Western games, like just not even to go too far. Remember when they released Star Wars, the Star Wars Jedi Survivor? It was an absolute mess on the consoles. On the PS5, the stuttering was just crazy. And even after 6 months of updates, it was still not going as intended.
About our experience, and you can feel it in every animation, and the numbers prove it. Stellar Blade hit 3 million copies sold, with 1 million copies on PC in just...
And also the developers, by the way, gave to each of the staff members a PlayStation 5 Pro once they reached the 3 million units sold. This is how you respect your employees. You give them what they need, because then they're gonna work harder. But in the Western world, they just say, oh, thank you, goodbye, go on the street.
3 days when it launched on Steam. I mean, that's a legit accomplishment, right? A pretty protagonist and good gameplay really are an unbeatable combo. Another recent one is Lies of P. They took the Souls-like...
Lies of P was great. I mean, I didn't finish the actual story per se because I just didn't have time, to be honest, back in the day. But Lies of P, again, it has such great involvement in the story, in the character, in the environments. And very importantly, they know how to focus on the right elements of gameplay, which is why the game was successful in the first place. Again, this was made by who? By a Korean company. That's right.
Formula and crafted this haunting, twisted, Pinocchio-like world with such attention to detail and polish that showed genuine love for both the fairy tale and the players who loved this genre. The market responded, and Lies of P sold over 3 million copies, hitting 1 million in its first month alone. And this also just gives me a chance to say, Eastern developers across the board are not afraid of making games that look good. Attractive, beautiful characters that aren't trying to check boxes, but are just trying to draw the player in and add to their experience and enjoyment. No intentional nerfing of their looks, no agendas, no ulterior motives, no nonsense. Just...
That's because in China and Korea, DEI does not exist. DEI was only implemented as a political tool in America, and it kind of bled into Europe, but in China and Korea, DEI per se does not exist. That's why they can make these good games.
Good looking, pretty, attractive characters and designs. And I've said this before, but I don't understand why this is so hard for Western developers. Stop making your characters less attractive on purpose. But
actually, they're not. They're actually making ugly characters. I mean, did you see Dragon Age: The Veilguard? Like, do you see like the character designs? Like, they look the same. Doesn't matter if it's male or female. Like, they look the same. It's almost like no gender whatsoever. Like zero gender, right? I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Getting back on track, are all of these Eastern games perfect? No. I had the occasional frustrations with Black Myth's hitboxes, and I wouldn't say Stellar Blade's story is my absolute favorite, but here's the thing. They are trying. Just like with what I was saying earlier with Wu Chang, they're clearly trying. They're at least putting in the effort, and you can easily see that these developers are working to make something they hope will love. The genuine care still comes through, even if the execution isn't always perfect. Yes, we want to get our money's worth and don't want to buy...
But that's the thing, they learn from their mistakes, and that's what's gonna happen. Look, this is really important, okay? Black Myth Wukong, when the developers make a sequel, they have learned from their mistakes, right? They're gonna release a sequel or like a different game which is gonna be from the same company, guaranteed, because they made a ton of money. And the sequel or their next game is going to be even more polished, even better, because they learned from their mistakes. So the Chinese and Koreans are learning here. The same as Stellar Blade, the developer said Stellar Blade 2 is gonna be much bigger, it's gonna have more options, it's gonna have a bigger world, it's gonna have better gameplay, it's gonna have better bosses, it's gonna have better this, because they learn from their mistakes and they improve upon them. Whereas the Western developers right now, because they don't care about mistakes, don't care about the gamer per se, all they care about is the shareholders' profit. And because you cannot use that as a driver for improving gameplay, if you don't listen to the gamer per se, your game will be an absolute piece of trash.
broken things. But from what I've seen across the internet, we're not expecting perfection, even at the AAA level. If you can see that the developer is valuing and respecting us, we're genuinely pretty forgiving, right? And it's clear that these developers are at least attempting to do that and serve their audience well, even when they don't nail every single thing. The total gap and difference between the approach to development between Eastern and Western devs is just so massive at this point. It's almost like they're going in complete opposite directions of each other. One is obviously right, and the other thinks they're right while blindly charging ahead into the fire. And since we're talking about developers serving their audience, I feel like I can't make this video without at least mentioning that there are still some incredible Western indies who are fighting the good fight. Clay Obscure with Sandfall Interactive.
So that's kind of the summary of it. I mean, literally, like, yes, there are some still Western developers, but even this studio, this is a brand new studio made out of 30 or 40 people. And yeah, the only reason why they were successful is because they did not have the core pressure of the shareholders and the CEOs and all the executives in these big companies like Ubisoft, because one of the two or three of the developers were from Ubisoft, and they said that they were so bored at Ubisoft they wanted to do something different. So that's the difference. That is the massive difference in this, is that Western developers have stopped trying. Asian developers are trying, and this is why gamers are shifting gear. And that's the thing, the Asian developers have seen that it works, that single player games are a market, and now they're putting their money into it. And the Western developers don't seem to care. They're losing market share little by little. This year 10%, next year 10%, and then literally there will come a point where more than 70 or 80% of the market share will be dominated by two countries, China and Korea. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, they're literally letting it slip through their fingers on their own, of their own volition.
Interactive, pouring love into every story beat, accompanied by great gameplay, sold over 3 million copies, and now they're having meetings with Square Enix. I'm not a card girl, but Balatro was made by one person over 2.5 years.
So they're still Western developers, but all of these Western developers, guess what's the trick? All of them are indies. That's the thing, they're indies, so they don't have this agenda, they don't have these executives, corpos. That's why they're successful, because the big ones are not, only the small indies.
Sold over 5 million copies, finding real success with its audience. Animal Well spent 7 years in development to create a highly praised Metroidvania that, during launch month, outsold every first-party Nintendo game on the Switch's eShop. Great job. And another Crab's Treasure, the Souls-like from Aggro Crab, reached 500,000 copies sold in just over 3 months, with the developer saying, "You can't engineer virality, but you can put heart into the game." Heart. That's what we're talking about. Baldur's Gate 3 has sold over 15 million copies. You can feel how much Larian loves this game along with its audience. Hogwarts Legacy sold over 30 million copies because someone finally tried to give us the Harry Potter experience we've always wanted. When you look at these games, you can clearly see a difference versus all the Western flops, right? The AAA disasters with their massive budgets will continue to be completely outperformed by developers who show genuine love, care, and appreciation.
Yeah, I think honestly, with this I'm going to finish the video, is the fact the following. I think we're going to see here the reset of the Western industry as we've never seen it before. So it's going to go full circle. The Western developers are going to crack, then these indies companies, which are quite small right now, they will start growing, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they will replace the Western devs. So it's like a cycle, right? They will replace them. It's going to take obviously maybe decades potentially, but then that's when again Western game developers will then be able to compete with Asian markets. Maybe in 10 years time or 20 years time, the Asian market, they're going to get very comfortable because they dominated the market and they will get lazy, for example, and then the Western developers are going to finally be able to recover that market. So it's almost like a circle, like a circle of life, right? It like goes in a full circle, and you know, it just happens. That's what life is all about. Like, it just, you go well, then you go bad, then you improve to get better again, and then you go bad again, then you improve to get better again. But like, Western companies have to try this because otherwise they will be doomed. So guys, that's it for today's video on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. It's quite an interesting one, to be honest. I'm going to link the video for the original video for the background NPC in the video description. And guys, that's it for today's video. As always, I shall see you later in the next one.